Can a painting convey historical truth? Can a painting have such an impact, sparking an intense and visceral reaction that makes a photograph pale in comparison? If this is the case, can artists or audiences use painting as a tool to seek social justice? History has failed us. This is the opening statement of the Korean-American author Min-Jin Lee's historical novel, Pachinko. This simple and powerful line is succinct. History has failed the ordinary people of the world. We don't often understand what happens or has happened to the common person during the flashpoints of history, the regular man or woman outside of the great halls of power. This is because they do not feature in the primary documents usually turned to by historians and other academics. And, in the rare instances that these common people do leave behind primary documents of their own, these sources do not receive the same degree of historical attention or credibility. There are also some things that the written word cannot fully convey, such as emotionally charged events or moments of upheaval and violence. Let us turn to Korea during the opening years of the Cold War, but before the beginning of the Korean War. Innocent people across the Korean peninsula were accused of being communists, and they were mistreated or killed in numerous violent incidents. The year 1948 in particular marked a surge in anti-communist violence that took many lives. Some of these incidents include the Jeju Massacre and the Yasu Suncheon Mutiny. These incidents resulted in untold numbers of deaths and casualties, such that even conservative estimations are immense. Yet such killings were either ignored or considered inevitable byproducts of war. Thus, what has been left behind is a complex legacy, one often shrouded in silence and ambivalence. Seeking evidence of these kinds of incidents can be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. This time period especially suffers from a lack of accurate records and photographic documentation regarding these terrible acts. That's where cultural representation, like artwork, can fill in the gaps. Sometimes a painting is just a painting, an imitation of visible objects in form and color. But sometimes it can be something else. Sometimes it can be a portal to another time and plane, expanding our perceptions and our knowledge. Korean artist Lee Quede's masterful People series is an example of this. Each work in the 4-painting series is a gateway to horrific truths. They show how art can play a role in politics and wider societal memory, as well as how art offers narratives of truth more powerful than can be expressed in thousands of words. Lee Quede was born in 1913 near the start of the Japanese occupation of Korea. He had a prolific artistic career, but he has long been a marginalized figure in modern Korean art. For decades, his name and works were sidelined and nearly forgotten, if not intentionally neglected and blacklisted, due to his status as an artist who defected to North Korea. Lee had been an outspoken critic of the elections of 1948 that established a South Korean-only government, as well as Syngman Rhee's National Security Act. During the Korean War, he would be arrested and held as a prisoner of war, before being labeled a traitor to the South Korean state. His activities and defection would land him on the state's blacklist of artists. Throughout this tumultuous period, Lee was a witness. He was an astute observer of the poverty, injustice, and loss afflicting a Korean society troubled by turbulent political changes and post-war devastation. Now, almost a half-century after his death, Lee's reputation has finally been revived. Lee Quede once said that art must be an integral part of the struggle in reality. It cannot simply be the still life of apples, flowers, or scenery, and he followed this ethos. Throughout his prolific career, Lee asserted his commitment to social advocacy in work notable for its affecting imagery and technical virtuosity. His People series in particular presents a symbolic reality that leaves much to the imagination. Brushstrokes reveal the truth, which doesn't weaken reality so much as deepen the enchantment. Individuals can be easily overlooked, yet the binding energy in the mass of earth-toned bodies captures your attention. Through Lee's virtuoso brushstrokes, these desperate ragtag groups become the visionary lens through which we glimpse this particular historical moment. Let's start at the beginning with People 1, which is also known as the Announcement of Liberation. It shows a crowd of people in the mountains, anxiously waiting news that will be delivered by the arriving figures on the left. But what kind of news will these two women bring? It could be an announcement of liberation, or news of violence and massacre. There is a reason I speculate on the nature of this announcement. See here at the bottom. A woman tears at her hair beside a dead body. Or here at the top left, this woman is fleeing with a child under her arm. A cow is running away in the same direction. Then there is this man at the upper far right. He passes along the messenger's news with a hand raised to his mouth. Something subtle is at work here, casting doubt that all is well, or as it seems. Let's turn now to the second painting in the series, People 2. An ominous dark sky spreads above a barren landscape, and this group of people gathers under a withered tree. We can see the dramatic placement of two running women appear again. People crawl on the ground, including a shirtless man who cries out in pain, and a woman with her hair down leaning against another breastfeeding mother. This group faces all different directions with puzzlement. Here is E's third work in the series, People 3. The gloomy figures again evoke an anxious and tense mood. There are more shirtless men, alongside women in traditional Korean dress. Two shirtless men in the center are in the middle of a conversation, and the man sitting to the far right is listening attentively. The horse on the far left is rowdy, in unstable and dynamic motion. Even further to the left, a group of people is rushing insanely to nowhere. Let's look at all three paintings now. There is no obvious source of threat, yet all of the figures are wary and fearful, linked in their tension. The danger is there, just out of frame, and the subjects are aware of it. That danger is much more present in the last work of the series, People 4. The explosion is prominent in the background, clearly the reason why the people in the foreground are fleeing. So many things immediately capture your attention. Perhaps the first thing that stands out is the figures, like this woman in the center, or the child in the shadows at the far right. Everyone's nudity. There's so much to take in. In many ways, you can read these figures as individuals, but what's clear is this: these people are suffering together. There are 34 figures in total, and they're all over the composition, in the foreground, in the background, at the borders, standing, kneeling, holding each other, and so on. It's chaos. This is a mass of people, yet each figure is distinguishable. All of the figures seem to be huddled up against the explosion in the background. Are these horrors invented or based in reality? It's rather ambiguous. What is important is its message. We can also break this painting down into three thematic and temporal sections. Notice the change as you move diagonally from the lower right to the upper left. As you move your line of sight, you'll see that E incorporated chronology in this diagonal composition. The painting divides time in three: Korea's recent past, present, and approaching future. It is important to stress that this composition has been carefully planned and portioned. This painting may present and represent the political upheaval of the period, but more importantly, it recasts a turbulent Korean history. The explosion-lit field is abuzz with the unchoreographed bustle of mostly nude people. Do you see the man eating another man at the bottom right? Besides that man, people attack each other viciously. This man frantically grabs objects on the ground. A fearful boy, next to his mother, gazes out at us, reinforcing the feeling that the painting depicts a moment of chaos. But what could be seen as a disorderly snapshot instead becomes an arresting treatise, ultimately revealing the nature of the political condition of Korea in 1948, 3 years after liberation from Japan and 2 years before the Korean War. The unrealistically gruesome details of the work and the equally tragic historical moment of its creation reflects the Korean people's political and social conditions on canvas, especially those whose bare bodies are otherwise unaccounted for. Death, terror, anxiety, confusion, and loss. All of them can be found in Lee Quede's People 4. While one can argue that Lee did not specify his subject matter, there are strong similarities between his People series and surviving photos of the Yasu Suncheon Mutiny. If we look at photographs of the 1948 mutiny by American photographer Carl Meidens, It is hard to argue that there isn't a connection and that Yi's work is wholly contained in the realm of painting. Maidens took over 300 photos of the Yasu Suncheon mutiny for Life magazine. They have only recently resurfaced, and we are fortunate for their existence. We see here a large crowd gathering as smoke fills the sky behind them. People huddle together, clearly having experienced a narrow escape. And here are mothers clutching their babies as they anxiously wait in a schoolyard, and families searching for their loved ones among piles of dead bodies. Photography bears mechanical witness to what is really happening, and it enjoys a healthy degree of credibility. Painting, conversely, has often been understood as a subjective medium, downplaying its documentary quality. The creativity of a painting or mural or sculpture is lauded and assessed, but objectivity of such artworks is considered inferior to the camera's cool and all-encompassing lens. The Spanish artist Francisco Goya is an important historical touchstone when it comes to the witnessing of violence and the expression of atrocity in art. Long before the advent of photography, Goya embarked on a large series of etchings, 82 in total, entitled The Disasters of War. The series is a visual protest against the violence of the Dos de Mayo uprising in May 1808. The scene in this print, entitled They Escape Among the Flames, is similar to Yi's People 4. Men and women carry and embrace each other in the middle of chaos and terror. By documenting the atrocities surrounding them, both Goya and Yi embark on a pursuit of justice in their respective series. Their works challenge art as a private record, using their craft to create indicators of historical truth. Let us look at another significant artist, closer to Yi in terms of time period. Pablo Picasso painted a little-known work called Massacre in Korea, which immortalizes the aerial bombing that flattened the city of Sincheon in North Korea. Picasso was a member of the French Communist Party, and this painting was born out of his anxieties about the Cold War and his hatred for the United States. Picasso portrayed the weight of the crimes and the inhumanity of the perpetrators by juxtaposing contrasting elements: female versus male, naked versus armed, passive versus aggressive, and soft, round human flesh versus steel, sharp, metallic armor. Just as in Lee Quede's People 4, the vulnerability of the victims in Picasso's work is underlined by their nudity. We also see the precarious position of the civilians by how women and children in particular are shown as targets. Still, like Lee Quede's People 4, this painting embodies the possibilities of art as a form of visual witness. In a different vein, the artist Arshil Gorky approaches historical truth by engaging with his inner trauma. Gorky was a survivor of the Armenian genocide, and he and his mother were just two of the countless victims of Turkey's extermination of its Armenian population. Gorky's mother died of starvation in his arms when he was just 14 years old. It took him more than a decade to begin the painful task of remembering and representing he and his mother's experiences. His painting, The Artist and His Mother, makes an immediate connection to the past through absence. Absence of memory, absence of recognition, and absence of people whose lives were neglected or denied. Without providing direct visual evidence or proof, Gorky successfully manifests the Armenian genocide in his work. The restoration of historical meaning in Gorky's work is similar to how we can understand Lee Quede's work and how it connects to the mass violence of 1948. Similarly catastrophic political conflict gave rise to Lee Quede's People series. No other contemporary artistic work so well evokes the horrors of Korea during the period, or the heavy tragedies borne by modern Korea. It is a story that is hard to stomach and even harder to recount. A story of death, terror, anxiety, confusion, and loss. But Yi's work embraces art's capacity to disseminate unspeakable truths and reveals how art plays a key role in revealing historical truth and producing historical knowledge. He proves that art can facilitate political action, and it can be a witness of violence, political trauma, and war. Yi, as a political artist, provided a necessary cultural accounting of forgotten victims. His artistic remembrance offers a way to express empathy and to grieve for those who died as a consequence of politics.